Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Gomo, Belarus has been in the news lately. This is where they've had to have some peace talks between the Russians and the Ukrainians. But Gomel in Belarus is also a special place for me. I believe that I've told this community in 2009, I led Passover Seders for Jewish communities in Belarus, and this was a life-changing experience. We were in Minsk, we were in Vitebsk, and Vitebsk is the home of the famous artist Marc Chagall. We were in Mogilev and Babruysk. Most Jewish Belarusians, they endeavor to live some type of a vibrant Jewish life. For the most part, this Jewish life, it's quiet. There are certain synagogues and Jewish nonprofits that are underground, underneath apartments and bomb shelters. Because in Belarus and also in Ukraine, in these areas, there's a fear of deep-seated anti-Semitism that still remains on the surface. But when I was in Belarus, we got to engage with their Netzer, and this is the reform equivalent to NIFTY, North Federation Teen Youth. This is their youth group. And these teens were absolutely incredible. Regardless of their circumstance, they shared a love of Torah and for Israel, love of God, and we even visited a Jewish day school. I think for many Americans, for many American Jews, this part of the world is important for our history. And I spoke about this last week's baby naming for Maisie and Teddy. For those who heard on television, for those who are here, all three of my kids share the Davis name. I want them to live the legacy of Anna and Dave Davis. Anna Davis came from a shtetl, which would be Belarus, David Hordork, which is east of Pinsk, and they're part of a living heritage society. Sometime in 1941, the Nazis forced the Jewish residents of David Hordork to dig a hole, and we all know what happened next. So for Jews who live in the former Soviet Union, Ukraine, even with its painful history for the Jews, which I'll talk about momentarily, is still incredibly important to us. I'm sure you've heard this on the news. It's the only country in the world outside of Israel that has a Jewish head of state, the incredible, charismatic, and brave Vladimir Zelensky. And also, they're not talking about this as much, their prime minister, Vladimir Groys, is also Jewish. It has the fifth largest Jewish community with 200,000 Jews, with an incredibly vibrant Chabad there. It's in this land, Ukraine, where Hasidim was born, with its founder, the great Baal Shem Tov, the master of the good name. He created numerous yeshivot in the area, and soon by the 19th and early 20th century, this is the land that brought us one of my heroes, Zeb Jabotinsky and Shalom Aleichem, two incredible Zionists. It's also in this land where the Bilu, Beit Yaakov L'chuneh Chalcha, O house of Jacob, let us build up to restore a Jewish land in Eretz Yisrael. So Ukraine is the heart of Jewish intellectia and vibrant spirituality. But on the other hand, it's been a hard history for us. The Chelminsky pogroms by the Cossacks, the persecution coming from Alexander III, the Russian Tsar. Baba Yar has been in the news, and this is where the Nazis murdered 34,000 Jews. The Russians were shelling it. Many Ukrainians during World War II were part of the final solution against their Jewish community. But it's made significant progresses. Even with its democratic process, its reforms, and even with its high anti-Semitic groups, it's trying its best to westernize. I've lost track of time, but the past 8 or 9 days have been absolutely horrifying for the world. For the most part, we want to think of Europe as safe. It's a place where we travel to, where we experience different cultures by traveling to different borders and hearing different languages. There's been a conflict in Crimea since 2014 with nearly 25,000 people who have been killed. Some of us remember what happened in the Balkans in the late 1990s. But this is different. We have the Russians engaging in indiscriminate attacks, killing civilians, and it is frightening for all of us. So the question what's been on all of our minds is, what is our response? And standing in front of you and for those watching and standing on this historic bema, I don't have the authority, no knowledge to speak of a military response. There's no way I'm going to talk about no-fly zones, or if America should cancel the importing of Russian oil, or the current arms shipments coming from other European countries. We can say that Ukraine is dealing with a thug regime who raises nuclear levels, which scares us. There was a theory born during the Cold War, MAD, mutually assured destruction. So if the Americans were to engage in a no-fly zone, it would be the end of the world because of such weapons. We're also concerned that China may see this as an opportunity to invade Taiwan. We haven't been this anxious at the world stage in a really long time. So again, it's okay to be frightened. It's okay to be inspired by an incredible president, the bravery of Ukrainian soldiers, celebrities, entertainers, and athletes and citizens going back to Ukraine and defending their freedom. And as a Jew, I'm proud of this president. And we have seen the world has found a way to be united. So the question remains, what is the Jewish response as we live here in the safety of America? I think for one, we continue to support the Federation's special campaign for Ukraine. In addition to so many nonprofits who are helping dealing with a massive humanitarian crisis, a refugee crisis that will be in the millions, and we support European countries that will take so many Ukrainians in. I think we have to celebrate the spirit of Ukraine too as well. Captured Russian soldiers are getting meals, they're calling their mothers, and they're not giving up on their people. So tonight, I think our response needs to be with our souls, and it needs to be with our brains. According to military experts, in a couple weeks, the Russians will soon occupy the country based on their military strategy. But the same military experts say that this will turn into an endless guerrilla war with more sanctions and more death to come. We'll see this endlessly on television, and again, we'll be frightened with Russia's control of more nuclear reactors. This is what I think is a good first step for our community. When I was at the gym, ESPN was on to my right, and I'm starting to see that Russian athletes are being banned for participating, even here in Birmingham at the World Games. There are so many Russian citizens, millions who want freedom, millions who have protested the government, often jailed and physically assaulted. We have to remember they are not fault. I just read that universities are trying to cancel Russian literature and Russian music out of protest of this. As a Jewish people, we can't cancel Russians. There are incredible amounts of good Russians who want Putin gone. I don't have the power, but for those who are watching maybe, I urge professional sporting leagues to reconsider banning them because it's becoming a paradox. Qatar, the country that is housing the World Cup in soccer, the biggest sporting event in the world, has legalized slavery with forced labor to build their stadiums. It also houses Hamas, a terrorist group. So it's a bit of a hypocritical act to ban the Russian soccer team from participating. Stores are banning Russian vodka. And therefore, I'm deeply worried of an anti-Slavic response. Communities in New York, Los Angeles, and Michigan that have many Russian speakers. And at the end, this type of boycotting or canceling doesn't help the people of Ukraine. It's not about us feeling good. It's about how our actions can be a light, because there are so many challenges upon the horizon. I also ask this congregation to get more knowledgeable about Ukraine and its Jewish history, and the Jewish history in Russia and Israel. I am not surprised, but we're facing a bevy of journalists and other nonprofit groups who are comparing the Russian tactics the same to the Israelis who attack Hamas. And we have to call this out. And finally, to add to our fear, the Iranian deal is not making the front pages, but our government is on the verge of re-entering this agreement. On the record, I believe this deal is horrible for the world, Israel, America, and the Jewish people. Iran is the biggest state sponsor of terrorism. The Zionist Organization of America, AIPAC, many Jewish nonprofits will be mobilized. But right now, we have Russia, we have Iran, we have China and North Korea. It's not a good time if we think about it. We've got so much on my plate. So here is my plea for this Shabbat. There's been an incredible amount of world unity for Ukraine. And maybe we can learn from this. Maybe we here in Birmingham can find a way to be more unified. I know that we are set in our beliefs, we are set in our worldview, but maybe when there's so much darkness and fear, this is our opportunity to strive to be our best selves, to embody Torah, to live with kindness, to live with forgiveness, perhaps to be less judgmental and smile to strangers. Tonight, in the strange Jewish calendar, we welcome Adar 2. And soon we will celebrate Purim, which is found in the book of Esther, and it's the only book that doesn't mention the name of God in our sacred Jewish literature. Our rabbis have different theories, but one thing remains. It's the power of the Jewish spirit that makes a difference. It's through humility, it's with companionship, it's strive to work in our imperfections. So therefore, I want to leave you with two quotes from the Baal Shem Tov, one of the greatest rabbis who came out of Ukraine to give us some type of perspective to make a difference in our lives that perhaps can continue through more mitzvot. Your fellow man is your mirror. If your own face is clean, the image you perceive will also be flawless. But should you look upon your fellow man and see a blemish, it is your own imperfection that you are encountering. You're being shown what is that you must correct within yourself. And just as we love ourselves despite the shortcomings we have, so should we love others despite the shortcomings they have. I pray for immediate peace in Ukraine. I pray for this endless war to end caused by the Russians. I know many of us are scared and glued to the television, but the more we work on ourselves, perhaps this can be the light that we need. Shabbat Shalom. We turn to page 586. We rise together for our